Well, hello there. This is Freshly Squeezed on Orange Go 55, your source for, juicy info and commentary squeezed fresh right from the Grove. Today, this is going to be very interesting. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to go ahead and interview, well, the channel holder right here, Orange Go 55. What's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. Thank you for having me on Freshly Squeezed. I appreciate it, brother.
Well. I mean, the honor's all mine. I must say. Okay, so this was a very, very, very kind of interesting story here. Orange Go comes up to me and says, "Hey, brother, I'm going to Disneyland, and for a few times in the next couple of weeks. I'd love to share my thoughts. You want to interview me?" It's like, absolutely, of course, I would love to do that. So now we're here. Orange Grove, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I visited the resort a couple times this week, actually. So I got a lot of thoughts in regards to everything that I experienced the past few days.
Very, very cool. So give us a general overview. What'd you guys do? Like, what days did you go? Where'd you stay? 2 parks, 1 park, just general. What happened?
Okay. So last weekend, Memorial Day weekend, we stayed for 2 days at the Grand Californian, Sunday and Monday. So it was a holiday weekend, right? And that weekend we went to both parks. We did Disneyland and we also did California Adventure. So that last weekend it was actually pre-Avengers Campus. So I actually didn't get to experience Avengers Campus, but I got a lot of DCA time and a lot of Disneyland time in those 2 days. Then I visited again a few days ago, this past Saturday, just at Disneyland. So that was pretty much it. So I clocked in like maybe 3 days total this week at Disneyland. So it was nice. I got a good feel for how things are going for this reopening.
Right. And did you say, just to clarify, this last visit, you didn't stay at the Grand Cali that last time?
No, this last Saturday, we did not stay at a hotel. We went,
Cool.
It was more just for the day.
Just for the day? Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to go ahead and double check there. So, all right, you get down there, you check into the Grand Cali. What was that kind of like?
Well, this is interesting, actually. They had we checked in, and they immediately told us that they didn't have us in their system. So,
You gotta be kidding me.
So it didn't start off.
Great start.
Great start. So they immediately told us it was really random, actually. Like, they had my girlfriend and my sister, in a room, but they didn't have me there or whatever. And to be fair, we did have a couple rooms for my sister and my mom and what have you, but they actually ended up canceling. So it was we actually ended up just being me and my girlfriend, right?
Okay.
But I think in that cancellation process of like canceling the other room, I think there was like some sort of clerical error. Sure. That somehow put my girlfriend and my sister in the same room, and then I was out completely, and really odd. So they didn't have the proper information in the system, which is pretty frustrating. But I will say that the manager got involved. They got us the room. They added me in. They corrected it, and they upgraded us to a better room, free of charge. So that was cool. So there was a mistake. It was kind of stressful and kind of drama when we got there. But at the end of the day, to be fair, they did correct it, and it was fine thereafter.
Very, very cool. So how long did that process kind of take? How long were you kind of in that rigmarole?
Maybe 10 or 15 minutes. It wasn't too bad. We knew there was an issue then when we pulled up to the Grand Cali, and like there's like this you pull up and you tell them like you're here for your reservation or your stay. This is right before you get into like the valet.
Okay.
And they had no record of us. It was like who? So I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good.
Oh, this is good. Yeah, this is great. I'm kind of living vicariously through you right now because I love to stay at the Grand Cali, but this is fantastic. This is awesome. So accommodation's nice. How's the room? How's everything? View good?
Yeah, I mean, I've stayed there a few times in the past. I prefer the Grand Cali. I like it. It's a very homely, comfortable, warm kind of experience. I like the Grand Cali a lot. It's a lot more pricey than the other hotels, but I don't know. It just feels like home to me, like in a you're like in a cabin or something, or it just feels. I don't do it often. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've every few years. Like the last time I stayed there was for Galaxy's Edge, like 2 years ago.
Right.
Before that, it was the 60th anniversary. So
cool.
periodically I do it, but when I do it, I want to stay there. I prefer that hotel. It's cozy.
Hey, the arts and crafts style. I mean, just the architecture of that hotel is just, it's just amazing, gorgeous. I like I said, it's the dream, right? So, how does this compare to like some of your previous visits, just in terms of the Grand Cali experience?
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't vastly different, surprisingly. But there were differences. Like they don't have the and we'll get into this. I know we're gonna talk about the food and everything on the resort, but I want to touch upon it a little bit here because this was a major difference. They don't do like room service anymore. Like you can't just call up and be like, hey, I want to order a cheesecake and a soda or whatever.
Oh.
They don't do that anymore. So because of the pandemic.
Sure.
So what they do, which is actually a creative option, in my opinion, which I actually enjoyed, they worked out like kind of a, I guess, an agreement or a deal with like the businesses in the downtown Disney district, where you scan a QR code in the lobby, and there's a list of the restaurants in downtown Disney, and they actually deliver to the hotel.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Nice little partnership arrangement. Good. It
wasn't bad, and to be honest with you, I'm kind of I enjoyed that because we tried Ballast Point, which I've never been to, and we're like, you know what, let's go for it. So we ordered it. They bring it to the lobby. It was great food. Yeah, it was kind of cool. It's a feature that I think. Look, I definitely want them to bring back the room service. I think you kind of have to have that. But I would love to see them keep this feature along with room service because I think it's pretty cool and it helps the businesses in the downtown Disney district as well. So I thought it was awesome. I love that aspect of it.
That actually sounds really cool, man. That is kind of cool. Hey, you gotta kind of make lemonades with your lemons. Oh, sorry about that. Make your lemonade with your lemons, and I think they did a pretty good job on that. Okay, so. Now check in.
Some freshly squeezed lemons, perhaps.
Hey, freshly squeezed lemons. See the branding. I gotta work on that. Okay. Nice one. Freshly squeezed lemons. All right, here we go. So the park itself, you got to take me through it. Okay, so you wake, you come from your room to the park. How's that going?
It was cool. It was weird because, like, I'll be completely honest with you, VashSky. Like, and we touched upon this in private conversations and stuff, but like, after a year and some change of not being at the parks, I was kind of okay with it. Like, I wasn't like a lot of people on YouTube and like a lot of fans were saying like, "Oh, I got to get back to the parks. I got to get back to the parks." I kind of was okay not being back for a while. Like, I kind of was okay with just kind of like the streaming content and kind of getting my Disney that way for a while.
Yeah.
But when I got back, I'm like, okay, I needed this. Like, I didn't realize how much I needed it until I was there, And then I'm like, okay, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's weird. It's like if you quit soda, right?
Yeah.
And you quit soda for like a year, okay? You're not going to crave soda like out of the blue. You're done with it. You detoxed, you're done. But once you have a sip of soda, then you're going to start getting the cravings back, I think.
Right.
Sort of the same idea here. Like, I was fine after a year, but once I got there, I was like, oh man, I got the bug again. Like, I got to go back. Back
on that bicycle, back on that wagon, right?
Right. Exactly.
That's
so,
cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much I missed it until I got back. It was really good to be back. And, I mean, it didn't really feel, there were differences. There were definitely differences, but for the most part, it felt like I never left. It was like, oh, okay, I'm back. It was like I was just here or something, It was weird. Yeah, it was weird.
That is awesome. That's great, man. That is super cool. I kind of envision, like, I kind of have thought about for a long time, like, man, what is it going to be like to walk back in there, after all this kind of thing? And that's pretty good. That's a really encouraging sign. Hopefully hopefully have a similar experience when I finally get back. I'm hoping to get back there in a couple of months, but we'll see. We'll find out. All right. So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, I have it kind of reminds me of this a little bit, but like, I have a best friend. I've known him since we met in 7th grade. His name is Sean. Shout out to Sean. Love you, brother. But like me and Tom, I met him in 7th grade. Okay. So we're lifelong friends.
Right.
And Sean has been in the military. He's gone to Japan. He recently moved to Japan. And with Sean, like he could be gone for 3, 4, 5 years and come back. Right.
Yeah.
And we just kind of pick up where we left off. There's no awkwardness. It's just kind of like, yeah, what's up, buddy? Cool. Let's grab a beer, right? And there's no.
That's cool.
It was like it was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the same feeling I felt with Disneyland. It was Sean. It was like,
right.
Hey, buddy, let's grab a beer. Like it was. There's no like weirdness at all. Like it was
right.
like it was. There was no year that went by. It was just like, yeah, I'm back, normal.
That's really cool. I've heard people describe the park that way. Maybe not. From a local's perspective, I'm sure that's different, but for, people, guests that are out of state or whatever, who only get a chance to go there maybe once a year, if that, it's like an old friend, you just walk back in and it's like you never left. And that is really cool, man. That is really, really cool. Huggable. It's, hey, good to see you again. That is awesome. So you get in there, and was there anything that kind of alarmed you when you got back in there? Was there anything that kind of like, wow, I didn't know it would feel like that, or with some of their operational changes, throw you for a loop?
Well, let's get into it. Let's get into masks and social distancing, shall we?
Yes. Absolutely.
Let's talk about that for a little bit. So what I've noticed the past few times I was there this week was the mask compliance was like sky high. It was 100%. Like I didn't notice anybody like not wearing a mask. Everyone is wearing a mask. Everyone's
no
following.
Face shinners, no nose guys.
I didn't notice that at all. I mean, it was very much everyone was kind of following the rules, wearing the mask, doing what they had to do. That was on point. But what wasn't on point was the social distancing. Both visits, last weekend, Memorial Day weekend, and this weekend, the social distancing was essentially non-existent. It was just people were crowding in places. The park, to be honest with you, and I'm not saying Disney's lying about how many people are in the parks, because I think there are some components to this that are affecting the way things look. But the parks didn't look like they were lower capacity. Like what was it now? Like 35%, I believe.
I think it's 35% is what they're maxing that at.
It didn't look like 35%. But to be fair, there's a lot more mobile ordering and virtual queues where everyone's more in the walkways and not indoors. So that could have played a factor, but it looked just as busy, in my opinion, anecdotally, on the pathways as it did on a normal day pre-COVID. The social distancing was non-existent. Like this past weekend on Saturday, like we got our boarding passes for Rise of the Resistance, and we were hauling butt trying to get to make our time. Right, we barely made it, but we're running through the park trying to get to Star Wars Land, and like the crowds, especially by Pirates and Haunted Mansion, the Rivers of America, it was like shoulder to shoulder. I mean, there was nobody was trying to distance at all. At all. It felt very, very crowded, and at least in my experience, it didn't look like anyone was trying to make an effort to distance themselves.
I've noticed this phenomenon. It's one of those things. You have the mask on, and I know personally when with that kind of interaction, you kind of feel like it's a little bit false sense of security. And so I think that's what's playing out here, and it can get dicey. You can only manage so much from a park's operational point of view. You can only separate people. You can only have so many lines. You can only do so much until people they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and that's kind of how it is, especially with a park so young. So old. A park that's so small. That gets tough. That gets challenging.
Yeah. And it's funny because like I noticed a lot of crowding, and then like Memorial Day weekend, like we stay at like I mentioned, the Grand Cali. So Sunday night we were trying to find somewhere to go to eat, like at like dinner, right? We were trying to just grab some dinner. So we thought, okay, maybe we'll go to that Craftsman like bar and grill over by the pool, right? So we went down there, and this kind of plays to like the whole idea of like how a lot of this stuff is sort of just theater anyway, though. Like, all the health theater, so to speak. Right?
Yes.
With the temp checks and things that sort of don't really matter.
Yeah, there's some stuff that you kind of get into it. You kind of think logically about it for maybe a couple minutes, and you go, I don't think that works quite the way they intend it to work, and that could have kind of downsides. But your experience at Craftsman Bar maybe included a little bit of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. So we go up, and the host, and she was great. No disrespect to her, she was fantastic. She was super friendly. But she's got a mask on. I got a mask on. She's got a plexiglass thing in front of her, right? And she's got the welder shield, I believe, in front on her face. So I'm asking her, like, hey, do you guys have do you guys accept walk-ins, or is it just like reservation, right? And she couldn't hear me.
Right.
So she actually, the plexiglass is right here. So she goes around the plexiglass to talk to me, right?
Oh no.
So I'm like thinking to myself, what's the point of all this? And it's not just her. I've seen this at my local, like, CVS. They do it at CVS all the time.
Yeah.
You can't fit your items through the little hole in the plexiglass, so you get to go around it to give them your items. And it's such theater. Like,
yeah.
At what point? It doesn't even matter at that point. You're like this far from the person, and it's like, okay, whatever. So there was a lot of that I noticed at my visit. Like a lot of stuff that, like, is there for show, but really at the end of the day, yeah, exactly.
That's what it is, right? Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, yeah, and some of the things, it's not even just for show. It's some of it actually makes it worse. It just logically, it makes you do things like the false insecurity we touched on before. It makes you do things you might not normally have done because you kind of have to, or you're instinctively you do it, kind of thing, like the communication thing. I mean, if what you're describing is correct, she's got 3 layers of material between you and you're wearing a mask, and so communication's tough. And so it's like, you go around and maybe you lean in or something like that, and now it's like, wow, you've just undone all of this stuff. If the two of you just would have had masks and properly socially distanced, you would have been fine, especially outdoor environment and so forth. But you put all this stuff in, and now you might be making stuff worse. I've seen a lot of that.
Definitely. And there were some policies along the way that like just didn't make a lot of sense. Like I said, we went on Rise of the Resistance on Saturday, this past weekend. And for COVID reasons, they don't have you go through, like, you've been on Rise, right?
Of course, absolutely.
You know that little room, that like briefing room with like the hologram Ray and like Poe. So you don't do that anymore. Like you kind of bypass that room. And I'm like, okay, I guess because it's a small room, but it's kind of open though, because it's got like a door on the side. It's kind of like an open air, like little room. But you walk through that, and they shove you in the transporter vehicle with the Mon Calamari guy, right? Right. Which is like a claustrophobic, like stuffy, like just incubator.
Yeah. I thought that was gonna be. I could have sworn when Rise was announced, okay, it's coming back, I would have sworn like they're going to bypass that. Going to use that side hallway. They're not going to use that because, the 15-minute rule or whatever. They actually did, and that's kind of a really surprising thing that they did do that. I didn't quite expect that, off the bat kind of thing. But, it's kind of funny because from what I understand, and please correct me, or if you don't want to talk about that's fine, but you have a personal fear of claustrophobic spaces. Is that right? So
I do, yeah.
And that kind of gets you the transporter?
It's weird. My claustrophobia is a weird like thing. No, oddly enough, that doesn't bother me. What actually bothers me a lot more, I was stressing over a lot more, was the escape pod part of the attraction.
Oh, okay.
When you slide into the escape pod in that little room,
yep.
That was stressing me out a whole lot more than the transporter. And I don't understand why. I mean, and phobias usually aren't rooted in any kind of like logic anyway.
Right.
But that transporter didn't bother me. But the escape pod though, bother me, for sure.
Well, this might help you out because I think you described this to me before, and from what I understand, you're always kind of looking for an exit, looking for a way out. You don't want to be
Right.
completely trapped. I will say, I believe the whole back of that transporter vehicle is open completely.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. I don't.
Interesting.
Those doors close obviously, but it will drop separate from them. It's not an enclosed shell. So
Interesting.
I think you'll be fine. I think you'll be fine.
Awesome.
I've seen some vloggers kind of get their face reactions, and you kind of see like, oh, it is open back there.
You can see the floors going like this, like as behind
a
it a
little
little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, because it's not sealed. It's not like a double doored elevator, right?
Oh, okay.
It's one side's completely open. You can, you kind of, so that might help your anxiety out. I'm just trying to help you out, man.
Yeah, no, that actually does. That actually does. As long as I have a way out, I feel better about it. And I was actually really proud of my girlfriend because she is terrified of drop rides in the dark. Ooh. And that was one part that I was like, oh man, she's gonna freak out. This is gonna be bad. This is gonna be bad. And she handled it. She actually got off that ride and was like, you know what? It's one of my favorite rides. I was shocked.
That's awesome.
I was shocked.
That's great. And for what I understand, your girl ain't the biggest Star Wars fan, so that's also really encouraging too.
No, she's not a fan of Star Wars at all. She absolutely loved this ride. Indiana Jones is her favorite. This was a very close second.
Really?
Yeah.
Indiana Jones girl, huh?
Yeah.
Like her already. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. That's awesome. All right, so yeah, we talk about that. Okay, so as far as the crowding goes, did you notice any like areas? Was it like consistently crowded, or did you see problem points? I know you referenced New Orleans Square, but did you notice anything else like that was just like, oh my god, can't get around this no matter what? It was consistently packed in this place. Anything like that?
The worst of it was definitely in like that New Orleans Square, Rivers of America area. Yeah. Pirates, Haunted, over by Splash Mountain, that whole general area, which is typically the most crowded on normal days. Yeah. That was the most. Tomorrowland as well, which again is a problem area for Disneyland in general, even before the pandemic. But
sure,
there was a lot of crowding. Now I do want to share this photo. This is actually from Dateline Disneyland. Who they just dropped a fantastic update. Like seriously, the best pictures I've seen. In regards to Avengers Campus, but I'm going to add this real quick.
Andy Castro over there, he always kills it. He always kills it with his photo updates.
He absolutely kills it. These photos are always phenomenal from Andy, and you definitely check out the update. I'll link it down below so you guys can check it out. But this is kind of an idea of like the social distancing. I mean,
wow,
it was pretty much, and this is DCA, whatever. Yeah. And this is a brand new land, but still, there's no social distancing. These people, like, there's nothing. They're just crowding like a normal day.
Yeah. This stuff drives me nuts. It's like you're having, obviously it's 35% capacity. You can't use, queues that are inside. Now you add 6 feet, for guests beyond that and stuff, and you do get crowded walkways. And it's like, why? If you're gonna have people standing around in a show like this, why are we even doing this whole social distancing thing with queues and stuff if it's gonna be like this anyway? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This very frustrating time, very difficult time from what I understand to be at the resort, but maybe you have more experience with that, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But I mean, it's the thing about Avengers Campus is it is so small. I mean, if you look at it, it's about the size of like the original Fantasyland, like OG Fantasyland. If you were to take like Pinocchio, Snow White, Dumbo, that kind of inner courtyard area, it's like that size. And I mean, just everybody's in there. Everybody's kind of waiting around for these live performances. Everybody's kind of waiting around for their food. And if you get into the land or are lucky enough to be in the land, you don't want to leave simply because I might not get back in, kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm going to have to wait around for my food somewhere, and it might be a couple of hours. So you just get this densely populated thing that is only made considerably worse by their kind of queuing systems. Did you ever notice anything like that at all with your experiences?
In terms of the queuing system making things worse?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because what you're doing with the queuing systems is that you're taking people out of the restaurants and the rides and and you're putting them in the walkways.
Yep.
So I was even explaining this to my mom. I'm like, yeah, it felt busy because everything was like mobile ordering. And she's like, well, that doesn't make much sense. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't. It makes no sense. It would almost be better if they just let the park operate normally, because then you would have some people that would filter through the indoors. You'd have some people in the outdoors, but now everyone's outdoors. There's nobody inside. So it leads to really crowded, congested walkways. It makes no sense if you're trying to keep people apart during a pandemic. I mean, it made no sense to me.
Correct. And I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of the inefficiencies of these virtual queues and waiting systems, which when we get to the food, we'll definitely touch on that a little bit more. But
food was crazy.
The the whole thing about FastPass back in the day was, okay, we're going to get people out of line and we're going to have them wait in what was previously then a kind of a virtual queue system. We might not consider that the same way today, but that was kind of what they considered it back then. And what they discovered was those people have to go somewhere. Those people have to go, in other areas of your park if they're not going to be held in lines. So we saw out of the outgrowth of that back in the 90s and early 2000s, a lot of like food stands, a lot of restaurants pop up, a lot of places where people could actually go to enjoy the time that they just alleviate themselves, by enrolling in the FastPass system. And so I think we're seeing a lot of that inside the parks as well right now, especially with like the virtual queue systems for, Rise, Spider-Man, the mobile ordering, now Indiana Jones as well. It might be making the situation a lot worse than it otherwise might be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes you can do too much. I think there's good intentions there. I think they're trying their best to alleviate the risk or minimize the risk or whatever. But I think that sometimes you can do too much and actually make the situation worse. And I think in a lot of ways, it's making the situation worse.
Yeah. And it's, still here?
The park, it felt the same. It didn't feel any less crowded than a normal day. And a lot of that's because of these virtual queues and the mobile ordering.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I 100% agree. I mean, the thing that people don't realize is you have a butterfly effect with these things. You implement these systems in place, and they're going to have ripple effects. You're going to have unintended consequences. People are going to do maybe things that you didn't quite anticipate or realize at the time. And when you don't take all of those things into account before you implement them, you can have some devastating reactions. And I think we're seeing a lot of that in Disneyland. I mean, the Disneyland experience right now has never been more different than even a year ago. I mean, it's just changed considerably. So that's kind of interesting to get into. So on that note, food. What was your experience with food?
So food, I think, was probably the most disappointing aspect of our trip, to be completely honest with you. There were some high points. Like I mentioned, the downtown Disney delivery thing was a cool aspect of the hotel.
Yeah.
Now, look, to kind of give you a little context, I'm not a big foodie. Like, I can pretty much walk up and get a corn dog and be fine. Like, I don't really, I'm not big on, I don't know the menus very well. And like but I do know like that the menus have been drastically cut back though. I mean, you can definitely see it. Like for Plaza Inn, for example, I do remember that there was a chicken line and there was a pasta line. You can get either or. You go on the mobile app and it's only chicken. They cut that in half. You can only order chicken. There's a lot of those kind of examples throughout the resort where you look at the menu and there's only like 2 or 3 items on there. And I couldn't tell you what those items were that were removed, but you can definitely sense that something is amiss. They're definitely not offering what they used to offer. And we actually had some trouble just finding a place to eat because there just wasn't a whole lot. Everything had either chicken fingers or a hamburger. There wasn't a whole lot of options. Like you didn't really have a whole lot to go off of. Yeah. It felt very much truncated and cut back because of the pandemic. And I understand it. I understand that they're going to make some cuts, but the food really took a hit. I mean, it was really difficult finding a place to eat because there really wasn't that many options at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, when they announced the reopening of the park and they published a list of what would be available, what would not, I mean, a lot of food was cut. You're just looking at it and you just go, oh my God, like where's anybody going to eat in here?
Right.
Rancho del Zocalo, who does probably hundreds and hundreds of covers for the times it's open, probably thousands. I mean, that's gone. Hungry Bear gone. Alien Pizza Planet gone, and it's like,
Right.
where are people going to eat here? This is nuts.
It was nuts. We had a really, really hard time. My girlfriend's a little more pickier than I am when it comes to food, and we were trying to find places, and we just couldn't. It was really, really difficult. For lunch last weekend, we did the Ronto Roasters, and that was cool. That was over in Galaxy's Edge.
Okay.
We hit up that. We did the Jolly Holiday on Main Street. We got some macaroons, which, by the way, the Mickey macaroons are like raspberry, and they're like that big around. Freaking phenomenal. Those were the star of the show. Love them. And we bought 5 of them. I kept them in my fridge. Like, they were so good.
Hey.
But that was the star of the show. But like, we made do. We made do. But for the most part, Disney really needs to step up their game with the food offerings at the park. There just isn't enough right now for people. There just isn't, and the mobile ordering too isn't perfect because like for example, the corn dog like wagon or whatever on Main Street.
Yeah.
I'm standing in this massive line that goes all the way down to the Astro Orbiter, okay? For a freaking corn dog, right? So this Disneyland executive or supervisor or team lead or whatever comes up to me and she says, "You waiting for a mobile order?" I'm like, "Yeah." No, I'm actually standby. I'm sorry. I'm not waiting for a mobile order. I'm standby. I'm just waiting. Right. And she goes, "Well, if you do mobile ordering, you can do it on your phone and come back." And I'm like, "Well, that's great." But the problem with the mobile ordering is if I do that, I'm not going to eat for another 3 hours. I'd rather wait in the line for 20 minutes than not eat. See, that's the thing. The window for the mobile ordering for that same corn dog place was like 3:45. Jesus. And it was like 11:30. Like, I don't want to wait 3 or 4 hours for a corn dog. I'd rather just wait in the stupid line and get it over with. I'm hungry,
Yeah, and I think like, there's mobile ordering makes sense when it's augmented by, by regular standby, but particularly at locations that can facilitate that kind of transactional process. There are some places where the corn dog cart, like, what are you sticking mobile order on that for? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They can't even facilitate that demand. They can't facilitate that supply. They can't check those things out to facilitate that kind of augmented service there. That's just bizarre. Completely bizarre. Disney's really dropping the ball on this. I mean, they really, really are. Yeah. But, so you went to Ronto Roasters. I didn't hear... Did you make that? Did you make that mobile order in hours previous, or how'd that go?
It took a while. Yeah, I don't remember the exact time frame, but it was at least an hour for us to get it. It was at least an hour. And that one was a little less problematic because we weren't as hungry, so we kind of didn't mind waiting. Okay. But yeah, the mobile orders take forever. The only mobile order that we had food wise that actually was pretty quick was the Dole Whip that we got at the Tropical Hideaway, really? Which, that's in a machine where they just, so that's understandable. But the other stuff, like the food took forever. The corn dogs, the Ronto Roasters, they all took there was always a long window to wait.
Man, I mean, Dave from Fresh Bake tells this story where he's just there on like a Saturday. He goes to do a mobile order for Tropical Hideaway for a Dole Whip there at like 4, and they're done for the day. Done for the day. That's just wild to me. That's crazy. It looks like they've improved that experience by the time you went, but how does that even work? I mean, it's literally just and you're off to the races. Look, I used to work at McDonald's for a couple of years. I know what's going on with the ice cream machine. Come on, like, how does that even happen?
It's crazy. Now to be fair with the Dole Whip, it was well before 4 for us at least. It was like, oh man, if I were to guess, early afternoon, like noonish. And
you got it within what time? What space of
that
time?
one was quick. That one we got it like within 30 minutes. I was shocked. I was shocked. Maybe we just lucked out, but for that one we got really quick. But the corn dog, The Ronto Roasters took forever. Even the macaroons on Jolly Holiday Bakery on Main Street, which I thought were all pre-made and just sent to the thing. I didn't think that they made those in-house. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. But those even take like an hour or so. I was like, why? They're like prepackaged like macaroons.
Grab and go, from what I understand. I just don't get it. I mean, corn dogs and Ronto wraps. I mean, golly, I remember getting those on opening days and on opening times with Galaxy's Edge, when the land was fresh, maybe less than a month old. I remember getting that 15 minutes, not even a big deal.
Yeah.
This is just mind blowing to me. For the opening of Avengers Campus, which I got to represent.
Yes.
I gotta celebrate the opening of a land here. We don't get them all too often at the Zen Resort. True. But for the opening of Avengers Campus, for the opening date, from what I understand, mobile orders were out at 9:26 a.m. For the whole day, you could not get any of the new items that premiered in Avengers Campus for the entire day, starting at 9 a.m. That's crazy. That's insane. That's so inefficient. And they're leaving money on the table. Look, Bob Chapek talks about consumer spending. He talks about like increasing guest spend, at the parks and all, finding all these ways to do it. We just saw Boo Bash be released in the exorbitant ticket prices that you see there. It's just like, oh my God, you only get like 2 hours on Halloween night. It's $200 with no entertainment. Are you kidding me? And so they're shaking that piggy bank as hard as they can, but you're leaving dollars on the table when you have inefficient processes like this. It's nuts. It's insane. Disney, we're trying to make you money here. Listen to us, please. We want to spend it.
Well, it's crazy. You're absolutely right, Vash. Like you're absolutely right. Like that first day we were there. That's Sunday last weekend, right? Yeah. We were there. We knew we were going to be there until Monday, the next day. Okay. We wanted to eat. We wanted to spend money. We couldn't find anything. It was so hard just to find something. It's like we're begging Disney, hey, take our money. We just want to eat. Just take it. And it was such a struggle just to find something. And then I don't understand. I really do not understand. As much as I loved that Grand Cali system of like, the downtown Disney delivery. Mm-hmm. What exactly, and maybe I'm missing something here. And if I am, cool. I mean, I'll tell, but what exactly is the COVID risk of food service? Because my luggage was delivered to the room from a person. It wasn't a robot. It wasn't, some droid. It was a human being who had my luggage and here you go, sir. So what's the difference of like a person saying, here you go, sir, with your food? I don't understand why that's different.
I wonder, because from what I understand, some of this Disney just has no control over. They have, Disneyland in particular has extremely small kitchens,
right?
That just don't facilitate social distancing if that's a requirement by the state. So you kind of have to, do this kind of song and dance where it's like, how many staff do we have and stuff like that. I was just going to ask you, I think with the California, the Grand Cali thing that you speak of, that might honestly just be a staffing issue. Did you notice staffing issues throughout your resort stay?
No, the hotel was actually aside from we had that little problem in the beginning, with the check-in. They were very accommodating though. No, I mean the maintenance, the housekeeping knocked on our door and like they normally do. And I didn't notice staffing problems. I mean, anecdotally, visually, I didn't notice any. I felt like it was kind of the same experience otherwise than it normally was.
And at the parks?
No, not really. I didn't really notice anything staffing wise. It just kind of felt like a normal, aside from all the plexiglass and the masks and like all the mobile ordering stuff, I didn't really feel like, the park was like it didn't look dirtier. I didn't see a bunch of trash everywhere. It kind of felt the same otherwise. Now, again, that's anecdotal. There might be a staffing issue, that I am not seeing on the outside. Yeah. But from what I could tell, from where I was, as just visiting, I couldn't tell anything.
Okay. Well, that's actually very interesting. Seeing some live streams, seeing some people in the parks and stuff like that, I get a sense that there maybe staffing's a little bit less. But hey, if you don't notice anything,
and it could be
more power to
no.
you.
In all fairness, it could be. I just didn't particularly notice it. I didn't notice like an issue with like trash blowing around on the road on the walkways or anything. I didn't notice anything that was abnormal that you would like the red flag, so to speak, that you would sort of notice from like a staffing issue, like trash cans overflowing, or I didn't notice any of those warning signs personally. And it might be there, but I didn't notice them.
Okay. All right. Well, look, listen, hopefully they can get these, whatever staffing shortages that they are incurring, whether we notice them or otherwise, hopefully they can get those alleviated because, when it comes to food, concessions, merch, this is how the parks actually make their money. The ticket entry, that just pays for just to keep the lights on, maintenance, the horticultural department, what is it? Custodial, everything like that. That's what goes into that price when you pay for that entry. Really, the profit, the revenue comes from those ancillary things that people embark on the other side. And when I hear it's like I'm hungry or I'm thirsty, I want something to drink, I want something to eat, and those aren't being fulfilled, those are lost sales in my mind. So it just screams incompetence. It screams like, oh my God, like you get the money kind of thing. So it is particularly frustrating to hear. It really is. It's just, JPEG, you talk about $400 million revenue losses for the quarter when it comes to this parks and resorts, but you're not saturating the guest spending. You're not, people want to spend and you're just not doing it. So frustrating.
It's so incredibly frustrating. You're absolutely hitting the nail on the head, Vash. I mean, it's so incredible when we're sitting here like looking at the app, just begging to spend our money because we're hungry and we can't find anything. We're like, what? There's nothing to eat. Like, come on. And then you're going to upcharge people for like the web slinger thing and all that, which is fine. I get it. I understand that. But it's like, you'd probably make money tenfold if you just, offered more food. Like, just do the more food thing. Like,
I know.
Open up your kitchens and you'll be fine,
I hear from multiple people overhearing guest interactions from Avengers Campus, and a lot of it's just, hey, I'm hungry and thirsty. How do I get food here? And it's like, well, you got a mobile order. Okay, well, why do I have to mobile order just to get food? I'm just, can I just walk up to the bar and have it served, to me like the good old days? And it's like, no, we have to go through these asinine processes that apparently Kim Potrock is like, oh, we've been working on this for a year. The whole shutdown, we've been really getting our digital infrastructure up. It's like, no, you haven't. Like, that's an outright bold-faced lie. Man. You had problems, with the Touch Disney selling out. You had problems with the servers crashing for when tickets actually went online. You've had all of these continual, consistent problems with your processing. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, you're just leaving money on the table, and you're really you're diminishing the guest experience greatly, way more than it has to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're absolutely correct, Vash. You're absolutely correct. There's no excuse for people to have to like sit there and like beg, like try to desperately trying to find something on the app to eat. Like, and that's the thing too, is like, this is the one thing I used to love about Disneyland Resort. I love the aspect. And each resort is different. Each resort has a different demographic. Each resort has a different thing and a different culture and a different whatever. But the one thing I loved about Disneyland Resort is the ability to have a spontaneous trip, which has completely been obliviated in Florida. You can't do a spontaneous anything in Florida. Yeah. And I like that we still had that. You can do that spontaneous, and they're slowly turning us, or maybe even quickly now, into Florida, where everything is pre-planned in advance. You can't just, hey, you know what? I feel like going on Indiana Jones. Hey, you know what? Let's go. You can't do that anymore. Everything is planned, down to what you want to eat. You got to figure out what you want to eat 3 hours in advance. It's nonsense.
It's so unfortunate because, I mean, you just remember what it was like before the shutdown. Yeah. And you just like, man, I mean, when is the next opportunity we're going to get closer to there? And you hear Ken Potrock and Bob Chapek talk about legacy, talk about, oh, we've streamlined our processing. We've added, these virtual queues and make management, managing these things better. Ken Potrock's talking about how they're going to add more of these things. And it's like, this is one of the worst aspects of the experience going to Disneyland Resort in 2021, bar none, hands down. I mean, how do you even explain to people? I mean, I think we've had discussions about it. Oh, well, okay. So if you go to Disneyland Resort, first thing you want to do, okay, you might want to go ahead and make your parking, reserve your parking in advance, pay that $25 fee, in advance when you're checking out. Oh, you got to make reservations now. You got to have the reservation window. You got to buy the right ticket to match up with those reservation days. You got to, as soon as you walk in, you got to make your mobile order. Make sure you make your mobile order before you walk in, because you might not have food locations on the other side. Now, hopefully, before you even got there at 7 a.m., remember, you're going to have either Rise of Resistance or Spider-Man. You might want to pick those because they go out instantaneously. So pick those fast. Yeah. And then when you actually get in, if you want to go on Jones that day, you're going to go ahead and make a virtual queue and all that. And how do you explain all this to people? And
overwhelming.
Yeah, we cover the parks on a daily basis. We're into it. I've been doing this for 15 years. Like, I'm a veteran, okay? And it's hard for me to keep up. And I hear stories of families coming in there. It's like, I don't know what to do. Like,
yeah.
What? Like, how do I even do any of this? I'm sorry. If I wanted to ride Spider-Man, I had to do what at 7 a.m.? And now I might not even, get a chance to, even though I'm in the park right now. I don't know how you explain this to people. I don't know how. I mean, this information is not even close to digestible, and you have to do so much of it. It's insane. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Part of the fun of a Disney day is, like, look, there are certain things I like to plan. I mean, but there's a lot of it is just kind of going with the flow. You're walking, hey, look, oh, there's corn dogs. Cool, let's get a corn dog. A lot of it is just spontaneous, though. And they're taking every one of those spontaneous moments and systematically removing them, where you pretty much have your entire day planned out via the app.
Yeah.
So you better feel like a corn dog at 12:25, because that's what you're getting at 12:25.
And if you wanted a corn dog at 12:25 and 12:25 rolls around and you haven't bought that corn dog 4 hours in advance, you're not gonna get that corn dog. And it's just like, you're making it not only just much more difficult with a clientele that's far more casual than you think it is.
Right.
But you're also losing money in the process. Like, it's not even helping you make money. It's actually hindering you tenfold, because if you were just to have standby lines at Bangle Barbecue or Plaza Inn, if you were just to have standby lines and no mobile ordering, you could probably turn out way more tables, way more orders than they are right now. And they're completely hindered. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm already kneecapped. Let me go ahead and take the rest of my legs off while I'm at it. It's like, why are you doing this? You don't need to do this.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And there's so much demand.
I didn't even go. I'm frustrated on behalf of you. Go ahead.
Well, there's so much demand for the food, and for them not open places. Like you said, the Pizza Port, like you said, like the Zorro Mexican restaurant in Frontierland. Just open them up. They would do buco business. I mean, we probably would have eaten at one of those places if they were open. Yeah. We're begging for something just to eat. And we probably would have eaten at one of those. And they're not open. They're not even an option.
And some of it's not their fault. But when you're already hindered and when you can only control so much, and you make it your fault, and you make it worse for yourself, I'm sorry, I'm going to have less sympathy for you. I just am. Yeah. It's just really frustrating. Did you notice other parts of the operation that kind of made you frustrated in that? We talked about Indiana Jones, and my kind of whole thing is the virtual queue system in there puts a kind of an added emphasis on that attraction, in that, well, people will kind of like, maybe I wasn't going to go on Indiana Jones that, today or this day or whatever, but because it's potentially taken away from me, I'm going to make a reservation whether I go there or not, or a virtual queue whether I go there or not, because I at least want to have the option to go there that day. Do you notice any of that?
Oh, that's interesting. And I mean, personally, I didn't notice that, but that makes a lot of sense where people want to kind of reserve that spot in case. And then and there's no, as far as I know, and maybe I'm wrong on this, please correct me if I am, but there's no, like, what's the word? I don't want to say punishment. That sounds really hard and terrible, but like, is there any kind of like penalty, right, for like making a reservation and backing out on it? Because that's what's going to happen is people are just going to make these reservations, whether they need them or not, just in case, and then back out. But if there's no penalty, there's no reason for them to, like, you know.
Yep. So you could potentially be, and I'm sure this happens a lot,
right?
You could be potentially, you know, and from what I understand, this happened with food too, with Avengers Campus, because you had to like, you know, initially you had to get the food and then wait, you know, in the standby to get into Avengers Campus before you can actually pick up your food. Hopefully you timed that right. Anyway, it gets complicated, but if you didn't show up, well, now you just took that food opportunity or that virtual queue opportunity for Indiana Jones away from somebody else who would have gladly gone on that attraction, but because, you know, you just wanted to keep all options open, that's what you do.
Right, exactly. I'm sure that, you know, Vash, I bet you that happens a lot, and that's a shame, because there's a lot of people that visit. Look, I've been to Disneyland over 1,000 times. I grew up in Southern California. I had an annual pass since like 2002. You know, if I don't make it on Indiana Jones, not the end of the world for me. I can come back next week or whatever in a month, you know. But a lot of families aren't that fortunate. A lot of families, you know what? They're coming from Sweden. They're coming from Japan. They're coming from Germany or wherever. And this is their once in a lifetime trip where they can experience this park, and you're holding it up as a placemaker spot because you might feel like it that day or not. It's so messed up. It's so messed up.
It is. And I just, there's changes to the Disneyland experience that are happening right now. It's like, man, it makes me nervous because a lot of this stuff doesn't look temporary. They're investing a lot of money in this, but they're bumbling the execution in so many different places. It's like, I know, hopefully it changes, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. I was going to ask you, did you notice any social distancing practices for the restrooms at all? Did you have a problem getting in there, doing your thing, and going? Sorry, it's kind of an odd question, but
that's a good one. I should have asked my girlfriend, because the women's restroom is usually a lot more of a line.
Sure, yeah.
For the guys' restroom, though, no, I didn't notice any. I use the restroom, but like, off the top of my head, I use like the restroom near Tiki Room. Mm-hmm. I walked right up. There's nobody in there.
Oh, wow, okay.
Like a couple other guys, but there was nothing. I used the restroom over there by Space Mountain, the exit to Space Mountain. Same deal. There was only a couple other people in there. And then obviously at the hotel, I used it a few times. But yeah, there wasn't really, I didn't have an experience in the restrooms where there was like a huge amount of people trying to get in or out or whatever. There was never an issue with any kind of feeling of like, this is too crowded, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I asked that, it's kind of a weird question, but I'm getting reports that Avengers Campus is like they have no restrooms whatsoever in there.
Wow.
I mean they obviously do, but just not enough for the demand that is there right now. Like 3 stalls in the men's restroom kind of thing. That's like, whoa, there's like, 10,000 people in there. That's crazy. That's insane. That's nuts. That is wild. Yeah. So I didn't know if that was like a thing that you saw in other places of the resort, because that's just kind of bizarre to me. And from what I understand, they did that for social distancing purposes, which seems so bizarre, but
really bizarre. Yeah, the restroom thing, I mean, that went really smoothly. Thank God.
yeah, I know. Right?
It went smoothly for me. I walked in everywhere I went. I walked in, did my thing, walked out. There was never a line. There was never a huge amount of people in those restrooms. But I did not go to Avengers Campus, so it probably was much different over there. New land, you know, only one restroom. And from what I understood with Avengers Campus, you couldn't like leave and come back, right?
You
were
could
in
not. No, you were stuck
Yeah.
there. Yeah, that was the other interesting thing too. Well, look, you just noted a competent system. Don't worry, Ken Pot Rock, they'll add those virtual queues of those restrooms, and don't you worry, it'll just brighten up the experience all for you. This
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
great.
Yeah, 3
Oh, my
hours
goodness.
beforehand. You better plan your pee.
Yep. Did you drink it this time? Oh, well, you might want to go ahead and tag on that bathroom just while you're at it. We're getting to there, folks. I'm telling you, it's.
We might be. Yeah, we might be. I mean, you know,
I know.
We
I say
joke,
that
but
jokingly, but I'm only half joking.
we might be coming to that point where it's like, yeah, man, you know, you eat at 12 o'clock and you got to, you know, reserve your bathroom break at 1:15.
Yeah. So the cast members that you did see, how was the quality of service from them? You know, did you notice anybody that were ornery? Did you notice anybody that were green? You know, that kind of stuff.
We kind of lucked out in that regard.
Okay.
In regards to cast members, we actually, I actually had pretty exceptional service with everyone I interacted with. Like, we had the issue, like I mentioned, with the Grand Cali.
Yeah.
There was a clerical issue where they mixed up our names and all that stuff. And even the gal that was helping us, that was like saying like, oh, your reservations are all messed up.
Yeah.
She wasn't like, she was good. Like, she wasn't like rude. She was friendly. She was trying to assist us. She was just given the information was given on the computer. So it wasn't like her fault or anything. But the manager stepped in and she upgraded her room. Fantastic. That was a perfect like experience with Cat. You know, there was a problem, they stepped in, they handled it, and it was friendly and courteous and it was great. In terms of, again, the Grand Cali, we had breakfast on Memorial Day at Storytellers. Our waitress, I don't want to say her name, but I already gave her a cast compliment on Twitter. And actually,
cool.
Bob Iger liked it. So
hey, there you go. Awesome. That is fantastic, sir. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
She was fantastic. Super friendly. And this is something that my girlfriend pointed out to me. And she made a great point. And actually, I do appreciate this a whole lot when it comes to Disney. She said my girlfriend said the one thing she loved about Disneyland was that they hire older people. You see a lot of older people, like whether they scan your ticket or whether you see them at the restaurants. The waitress we had at Grand Cali was older. I mean, if I were to guess, 70s. Okay. I mean, she was older. And my girlfriend was like, that's great. You know, they're hiring, Disney could easily just hire like young, full of energy people, right? But they hire these older people. And she said that was great. I actually agree with her. I think that was fantastic. And the waitress we got was older and she was phenomenal. She was super friendly. Service was fantastic. Cast member experience overall this time was great. I didn't have any problem with anybody on the cast member side, you know, being rude to me or dismissive or anything. This time was fantastic.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I've heard varying reports. That's about the best one I've seen. You talked about storytellers, eating in there. I didn't quite catch that. I do apologize. How was that whole experience like?
That was different. That was different. Usually they do like a buffet in the morning, which we were a little disappointed they didn't do that because their buffet is phenomenal. We love going up there. You can bacon and eggs and they have like muffins and you can go up there. It's kind of like we missed that, honestly. And then they didn't have that. It was just you sit down and you tell the waitress what you want and waiter, and they tell you what they want and they bring it over like a traditional restaurant. There was no buffet element at all.
Really? No family style even?
No, not to my knowledge. It was just basically there's a menu and you just order and you get what you order. Pretty much that was it, and there wasn't any like usually with storytellers, they have like characters, like whether that be the bears from Brother Bear or Chip and Dale, right? All the woodsy characters, none of that, no characters at all. So it was a little bit different experience in that regard, but food was great. Service was great. We got a great waitress, so no complaints. I hope that other stuff comes back though.
Yeah.
I want to see the characters. I think that's not for me really, but for the kids, I think that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
And then for like you know, the buffet. I missed the buffet. I thought the buffet was fantastic. So
hopefully that stuff comes back. Like I said, I mean, there's so many changes to the Disney operation that some of it good, a lot of it bad. Hopefully by, you know, we keep hearing this June 15th date. Hopefully it changes substantially on that date and then continues to evolve as we continue to come out of this. We'll see. Okay, I just want to double check, make sure everything's all good. Oh, yeah. Did you now previously have you enrolled in Max Pass and you know, familiar with that system, or is it something you guys don't do?
no, we did. Well, actually, I loved Max Pass. We had the Signature Plus Pass.
Okay.
Prior to its cancellation or whatever, and yeah, we use it all the time. I mean that was a great feature. Yeah.
Did you notice? I mean, did your experience significantly depreciate because of not having that, or
No, because fast passes are completely, aside from the few attractions that have the virtual queue.
Yeah.
There's no like a fast pass system. They don't have any of that anymore. Max Pass, Fast Pass, none of it. Everything is standby, aside from the few that have the virtual queue.
Right. So, I mean, did you find yourself missing that? Did you find yourself like, oh man, I wish I had.
Not really, because there wasn't that Max Pass, like there wasn't that Fast Pass system. The standby lines were pretty quick.
Really?
Surprisingly. Yeah. Like, man, we waited for Star Tours. Usually, I mean, it can be like an hour or more for that ride.
Oh yeah, average 45 minutes for sure.
Yeah, and this, I mean, it was like 20 minutes maybe. I mean, it went by super fast because they didn't have like that pause for the standby and letting people in
right
for the fast passes, you know. So,
oh, I know. A lot of people don't understand. Like, and I try to tell this to people. You know, when you have a Max Pass or Fast Pass system, the way it works is that is the actual line. The Fast Pass and Max Pass. The standby is just filler for people to show up. So, you know, a lot of people don't understand that, and so that's why you have these inflated numbers, these inflated wait times with systems like that installed, because you know you have to separate a portion of your capacity out for a Fast Pass standby hybrid system. So if you're standbying it, you might be getting only 45% of that capacity, whereas the Fast Pass, you know, they're getting right on kind of thing. So that's very interesting. So I'm glad that went out well for you. That's nice. Longest wait, you'd say?
Longest wait was probably Snow White. Actually,
oh.
It was probably Snow White. And to be fair, that's a new thing with the new upgrades and everything. But we waited for that one maybe 30 or 40 minutes. That was the longest though. Even with our boarding passes. We got boarding passes for Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to ask you a question about that actually after
okay.
my point. But that we were only, once we got there and checked in, we only waited like 15 minutes. It was super quick going through the line and boarding and the whole thing. It was like that. But I have to ask you a question because we actually, for Rise of the Resistance, we did the boarding passes at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
From home. You know, you can do it from home. And I'm like an hour away from Disneyland. I mean, I'm local, but I'm not like next door, you know?
Yeah.
So at 7 a.m. we left the house and like, we were like 20 minutes out from Disneyland. And I get a message from Disney saying your boarding pass is now being called. Right. And you have like a 30-minute or hour window. I'm not really sure exactly.
I thought it was like 2 hours, but maybe they did slim it down there because maybe it's too generous.
Yeah, because it was like 9:20, I think, when they messaged me, and we had till like 10:17 to get there. So it was about an hour that they gave us. But like, do you know? I mean, and I don't know. I haven't really used the system enough to really. Is there like, if you come late, do they still take you, or is it like 10:17 and sorry, buddy, you're out of luck? Or how's
well, I think it's like the kind of the fast pass system where it was like, you know, kind of 15 minutes generally. But really, I've heard it's to the discretion of the cast members. Yeah, I know that seems wild to me, but they don't want you missing those virtual queues.
Let me tell you, Vash. Let me tell you, I got a workout this weekend because we because we got to the park.
Mm-hmm.
The end time for our rise resistance was 10:17.
Okay.
And we got to the park in the parking structure at like 10:05. Now there's no trams. Now you walk the tram.
You parked
route.
at Mickey and Friends. I'm sorry, I missed this whole thing. I thought you went from Grand Cali then in.
Well, that was last weekend. That was
okay. So this okay.
Yeah. So this weekend,
apologize.
Yeah, no. So this weekend we only went for the day, so we didn't have that hotel, situation. So we parked at the Mickey and Friends, and it was like 10:05. So we had to run from Mickey and Friends down because there's no trams. You walk down the tram ride. So we're trying to run through or sprint through the tram line to the entrance of Disneyland, and then all the way to the back of the park because it's at the very back of the park.
Yeah, no, you literally you were there. You had to walk around the long way to just come back. Is kind of where you were at. Oh my goodness gracious.
So we're running, and I'm still sore. I'll be quite honest with you. I'm still sore from it. But we ran out like huffing and puffing, and I hand the guy, I show him my whatever code for the boarding pass. He was cool. He was like, "Oh yeah," but we were like 2 or 3 minutes late. Now he didn't care. He wasn't tripping on it. He wasn't like the cast member wasn't like, "Oh man, you're 2 minutes late." But like I didn't know. Like, was that even necessary? Could we have just kind of walked? I don't know.
I think generally speaking, with everything, and I think the virtual queue system is with this as well. 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Cool. Because we've had those close encounters myself actually with Max Pass and stuff like that. Generally, it's 15 minutes after. No problems. But I think that, virtual queuing I think it's the same way. It's cast member discretion. Now, I have heard of people, showing up like an hour or so and getting lucky. Cast members understand and going, but I wouldn't bank on it. That's for sure. It's Rise. That's it. That's your shot. So
yeah,
I do apologize. That sucks.
Yeah, we were running awful. Like crazy. I probably,
oh my goodness,
burned so many calories that day. I should check my app. Apple has like those like steps map. I bet I killed it on Saturday.
Oh really? Yeah.
The running from.
Yeah. People on Twitter and Pass others that they're posting their kind of their step counts because it's quite not used to that. Whereas we average like 28,000 steps, every single day. Cause it's like, we only have that day. We only have that much time. Now people are getting to experience that now. So I would be very interested in that data. Yes.
Yeah, it was interesting, but we made it, thankfully. The cast member, again, another, I guess you can say a good cast member experience because he didn't give us any issues for being a few minutes late. He scanned mine, he scanned hers, we were good to go. Another thing interesting, because they recently changed the dress code.
Yes,
for cast members.
Yes, they did.
The Disney look.
Yes, they did.
And that was another thing I was kind of looking out for these past couple of visits, and I didn't really notice anything. I didn't notice that was one thing I didn't notice. And again, I'm kind of going off my own anecdotal experiences, but I didn't notice anything different. I didn't notice cast members with tattoos or anything like that this time around.
Yeah. Listen, there's a point where I don't think it's going to make much difference to many people, but then there's a more extreme view, and from what it looks like, it's the Disney look has been preserved to the extent possible.
Yeah,
I say, at least from what I've seen. Could be different. You could have a different experience. I don't know, but from what I understand, a lot of people were making a big fuss about it, and it hasn't seemed to materialize in the way that maybe people feared it might be. Well, I'll just put it lightly.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, this time, granted, I was only there Sunday, Monday of last week, and Saturday of this week, and from what I noticed, it seemed normal. I mean, if I wouldn't have known the news that they even changed the look or the policy, or
you wouldn't even know.
Wouldn't even know. Yeah, I didn't see anything abnormal, like different, at all.
Now, you parked the Making Friends parking structure. How is that? This past Saturday. How is it going back to the Making Friends parking structure afterwards, after an entire day at Disneyland?
It was hard. You walk all day in the heat. It was hot that day. It was hard. Like, it's nice to kind of get on the tram and just kind of like at least get that few minutes of just kind of chilling. You don't get that. You hit the tram route and you start walking,
Yeah.
It was hard, but I mean, you do it. I'm sure the trams, that's one thing that June 15th will probably come back, I'm sure.
I hope so. It gives I pause a little bit because it's like, man, why isn't Walt Disney World's back yet?
Right.
Maybe they're waiting on Disney college students for that specific service out there, but hopefully June 15th that changes here. We'll see. From what I understand, that's like the consistent a criticism of the park experience. It's like, man, need some transportation, because it's just Disneyland specifically, they really catered towards that guest experience, and when you lose some of those things, it does evaluate.
Well, and it's interesting too with the tram route, because it's like, I myself included, I would take it for granted. I mean, when you're on the tram, you don't realize how long that tram route is, and you just get on it and you go. It's a long walk. I mean, I was like, wow, this feels, obviously it's going to feel longer than when you're walking and when you're on the tram, but I didn't realize how long of a walk that was until.
No, I mean, imagine, just for a moment, imagine walking from Critter Country to Main Street on the other side. That's how long it is. And you feel it, from what I understand.
Yeah, man. I'm still feeling it.
So sorry, sir. Did you notice music when you were walking the tram route?
Yeah, we did. They had music, and then like periodically they'd have like a COVID health update. Welcome to the Disneyland Resort. For your safety, wear your mask and socially distance and cover your mouth and wash your hands. They would do that periodically. But yeah, there was music and announcements and things as you're walking.
So that's pretty cool. I mean, they didn't have to do that. That's pretty cool that they actually went that extra mile. Look, listen. I see some stuff going on at Walt Disney World, and it's like, wow, did you even think about the guest experience when you were actually, doing this, considering this, all this kind of stuff? But it's nice that they gave you a little bit of that. Did you notice those COVID announcements in the parks themselves?
I did. Yeah. We were waiting for Star Tours. You're outside. You know that little like extended queue area for Star Tours, like in that little room? Right. They don't do that anymore. They just keep you outside, basically. Yeah. And while we were waiting for Star Tours, I heard that the COVID announcements a few times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, for the health and safety of you and those around you, cover your mouth, sneeze into your hand, wear your mask, that kind of stuff. That I heard it like a couple times. It would like interrupt the music, the land music, and they would play that and then go back to the land music.
That's unfortunate. It's. Maybe that's a state regulated thing. I'm not sure, but
maybe
maybe like once every 30 minutes, not once every like 5 is what it sounds like. I mean, that seems a little bit excessive. But did you ever go into DC at all?
We did. Yeah, we went actually not this trip on Saturday, but last weekend, Memorial Weekend, we did go into DCA. What did we do over there? We didn't really do much. We walked around most of it. We just kind of enjoyed and absorbed the atmosphere. We went on PhilharMagic, experienced that. And for that, they were like the theater. They would like every other row, I believe, or something. It was, you had to leave like 3 seats between you and the next party, something like that. Okay. But we didn't spend too much time at DCA, and that was before Avengers opened, so it wasn't,
The dynamic's totally different now, guys.
Right,
totally different now.
Exactly.
Would you say a park hopper's worth it?
Well, it's weird now because like the park hopper now, you can't just do it whenever you want. You got to like, I think there's like a park hopper time, right? You got to do it after 1 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Kind of weird. Like if I was coming from out of state, like you're coming from Arizona, right? Like
I am.
You're coming from Arizona. You only come like a few times a year or something like that. Mm-hmm. My best suggestion to you would be or someone in your position, in your situation even, would be, if you're gonna stay for a couple of days and do a Disneyland day, stay the night, and do a DCA day. Because I just feel like the park hopper situation now, where you can't really do it, it's after 1 o'clock. They're kind of, just do a 1 day Disneyland, 1 day DCA, call it a day.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think that this new system of the park hopping, where you have to, there's a designated time, I don't think it's worth it. I think you're better off doing 1 day for each, in my opinion. If you can, you know.
Well, I think for us, I think we have plans. Maybe a couple of days if we can swing it. I don't think we're gonna go over to DCA any one of those days. So it's just it's one of those things. It's hard to justify at that price, that level of experience and so forth. I mean, the Hyperion really added a lot of value to us, and now with that gone and Will of Color gone, I was going to ask you, like, entertainment, like, did that devalue your experience, any at all? A
little, to be honest, it did a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big entertainment guy. I think it adds to that. I love. There's something about, especially at Disneyland, like you're at, it's nighttime and you're at the Rivers of America and you're walking towards, like, say you're going to Pirates of the Caribbean, or you're going towards Haunted Mansion, and there's Fantasmic in the distance, just going freaking ape shit, like just nuts, right? And it's just like there's something so cool about that, right? Where there's all this stuff going on around you, or you're on Main Street, and there's a parade going by, and the music and the energy, right? Yeah. There's something about that that's so quintessential Disney, isn't it? Like that whole, even if you don't like park and watch it, just it being there while you're walking around is so cool. I missed it. I did miss it. I don't know.
It's that part's tough for me. Because man, the Main Street bands, the kind of the little shows, like the little entertainment acts in New Orleans Square. When they got rid of the bands at Tomorrowland, that was kind of tough. It's just something about. You're right about that. Something about that experience. Something about that energy, that life, that kind of. I mean, and it's imbued in Disneyland. It's part of its lifeblood. When you see these old Disneyland specials back in the day. Walt. Night at Disneyland, you just see all the entertainment. It's just like, man, I want to be there. It wasn't showing off the rides. It was the entertainment that really, was showcased in that episode.
Yeah, and that's really like when Disneyland comes alive. Yeah. Like that's when the park is really like a living, breathing thing. When you're walking through and there's fireworks and there's the Fantasmic and there's a parade. That's like the kind of like the heart of the park, the soul of the park. It makes a huge difference in the experience. Now, we still had a great time regardless, but I would be really saddened if they go too much longer without this stuff. I want to see shows again,
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. It's mind-blowing that even Walt Disney World doesn't have even fireworks and stuff, even now. I mean, you look at some of the competitor parks out there in Florida, they have fireworks, they have shows, and when Walt Disney World doesn't have anything, it's like, man, that's kind of a wild thing, How long is Disneyland going to live without some of that entertainment? Maybe it makes sense for a Fantasmic, but can we at least get fireworks? Can we at least get World of Color? Seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, and you know what, Vash? I mean, I'll be honest with you, like a lot, and it's not just Disney, and it's not even just the theme park industry. Companies in general have taken the pandemic and used it as an excuse to go ultra cheap. Like I've had personal experiences with companies I deal with on a monthly basis for, like, whether it be a cell phone bill or whatever it is. And you call the customer service and you're waiting for 2 hours on hold because they don't have a representative, right? Because of COVID. Yeah. It's like, there's no excuse for that. Like, I work from home. My company has me working from home. Why can't the representative from AT&T work from home? I don't understand that. And I think Disney is sort of doing the same kind of like excuses, like COVID. But at the end of the day, it's really about money, and
and that was my whole thing going into this was like, wow, you're really reducing the quality of the experience. You're reducing how much, the value of that ticket, but you're still charging the same.
Right.
And it's just like, that might work at Walt Disney World. We'll see where they go with that. But Disneyland, I mean, that's another type of thing. So when June 15th is lifted, when these, reservations are really opened up and broadened up to the 100%, 90%, 80% capacities that they're going to be, working with going forward, it's going to be interesting to see how sustainable that really is. How long can they get away with not having entertainment and booking at the park every single day with this reservation system? It's going to be fascinating because I don't see it. Not Disneyland. And they need an entertainment program. They need one. It's part of what keeps the parks open later. It's part of what keeps food operations and all that, those kind of things running, is off of those nightly entertainment programs and so forth. It's going to be fascinating to see because it really is a diminished experience. But that's part of it. Big part of it.
It's a huge part of it. Yeah, it's a huge part of it. The entertainment has always been, even as a kid, like I remember like going to Disneyland with my grandma, and she would stake a spot out for us for the Main Street Electrical Parade, and like, or Fantasmic. I mean, those were such a big part of my experience. The rides are cool, but it was those nightly entertainment shows that really just made your day. It was different.
I know. I mean, my dad talks about how when I was like 2 years old or whatever, how, I may have been tired, may have been crying or whatever. And then it just, that goes away when the fireworks come on, and he can't even push the stroller because I'm just mesmerized and I want to stare at that thing all day kind of thing. I remember my mom staking at a place for Fantasmic for like 7 hours or whatever because she was just so enamored with that show. I remember going to the Hyperion and seeing productions of Aladdin and Frozen and just how amazing that all was. It's bizarre to think about the prospect of going to Disneyland and not experiencing any of that.
It's really bizarre. It's really bizarre. And I hope that Disney gets back on that. I hope they don't just kind of take the cheap route and kind of use the pandemic as a crutch to just not do it. You need that as part of the experience at the park. It's such an important part of that experience that you have when you go to Disneyland. That like Walt said, that's the kiss goodnight, right?
Yes.
That's the big kiss goodnight, and it just kind of closes out your evening. It's just perfect, and I really hope, like I said, even if you don't sit and watch it, even if you don't sit there and actively watch, even if it's just in the background while you're walking through the park, it makes a difference. It adds life to the park.
It's massive. I mean, it's massive. It's one of the reasons why, when other like small towns have fireworks presentations and so forth, and you just go like, it's not as good as Disneyland. It's so like why bother kind of thing, because their entertainment is just so great, and it's
Disney fireworks shows ruined me for every other fireworks show. Like, we have local fireworks. Yeah, they ruined me for it because we have local fireworks shows out here too. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh gosh, it's like they're not synchronized to music. There's no projection mapping. I'm like, why am I watching this? There's nothing, Right. It totally ruined it for me. And it's just like that. The Disney fireworks, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it, dude.
Nothing. There's when you have like Tinkerbell and like she doesn't just go down the line anymore, she goes back up the line. They have multiple characters on that. When you see like a volcano or a pyrotechnic go off of Matterhorn, it's perfectly synced to the audio. And you just had those sweeping scores, or even just like, even without that, just seeing them so up close in like Batu or something, and they're just over that rockwork. I mean, it's just like, that's Disney. Or if you can time it, going on Big Thunder. Yeah, I've seen fireworks there. I mean, that's totally right about that.
It's incredible. Right. It's absolutely incredible. I feel like I watch these fireworks, like like the anniversary fireworks and what have you, and that's the moment when I'm watching it and I'm like, man, like, what if Walt Disney was here to see what he started, what he created and what it is now? what would he be thinking right now? Like those are always the moments I'm in my own head thinking about stuff like that. It's not when I'm on the rides. It's when I'm watching these fireworks shows. Like, wow, I wish Walt was here to watch this. You know, they're just really cool, emotional experiences. And like my girlfriend, her family came here in 2005 from Vietnam, right? And so they didn't really grow up with the parks at all. Like her parents, I mean, they're older, right? They didn't grow up with Disneyland. And we took them for the first time in like 2013, I believe.
Okay.
And the highlight of their whole visit were the nighttime shows. I mean, they were like in tears over it. I mean, they never experienced anything like that before.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it was just like, I've seen them a million times, but watching it kind of through their eyes was like incredibly emotional. Yeah. And it's just sad that a lot of families are missing out on that right now.
It is. Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna get weepy, man. I didn't expect it to go this way. No, I mean, we just get, it's, I don't want to say we took it for granted, but it's just, we kind of normalize it, you know, and to the extent that you just kind of expected it, you know, it's consumer expectations. And so it's like, yeah, you become kind of like, okay, like I've seen it, but man, you see a child's eyes when they haven't seen anything like this, and you see projections down Main Street, and you know the magic is literally surrounding you in every aspect, and it's unlike anything that anybody else can pull off or even attempts to or tries. And you hear those scores that you've watched movies about or watched TV shows about, and it's just, it just hits, you know. It really is a kind of a special time. It's kind of a special thing, and it like you said, it is tragic that people aren't getting to experience that. That's a pretty cool story. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. Disneyland, Disney parks in general really are about who you go with, because I can go 1,000 times. Yeah. But if you go with someone who's never been before, or whoever you go with really kind of paints your experience, you know? If you're with a newbie, your experience at the park is going to be different than if you're with another annual pass holder.
Right.
It's bizarre. Same place. It's the same physical place, but the experience is completely different.
Completely different. And when you converse with them, it can be on different levels at times. Yeah. That's a pretty, yeah, no, you're completely right about that. It's pretty cool going with newbies sometimes and kind of seeing it through their eyes and seeing it like, you know, because that turn, every single freaking bump in that Indiana Jones ride or whatever, and it's kind of see them and it's like, hey, what do you think? You know, is that awesome? Like, and that enthusiasm. Yeah, that's pretty great. That's pretty awesome. Cool. I'm trying to think if I missed anything here in this conversation. We covered so much ground. When you went with Avengers Campus Open, did you see Disneyland crowd levels any less or more than you had previously experienced them the previous week?
Visually, no. I didn't see it any less crowded than the week before, but well, the week before Avengers Campus, I couldn't get Rise of the Resistance virtual queue boarding passes. Like, right. I mean, it wasn't like we didn't try. Like at 7:00, I was up at the hotel like this, right? We hit it. I mean, within 3 seconds, they were gone. That's crazy. But now the following weekend, where everyone was gunning for the Web Slingers boarding passes, I ended up getting a Rise of the Resistance pass. So I think that's where I noticed it the most, is that I had less of an issue getting Rise of the Resistance boarding passes the weekend that Avengers opened, because I think more people were going for Web Slingers. Yeah. But in terms of the crowding, visually, it looked the same in terms of how crowded the park looked. And again, I'm eyeballing it, you know. I mean, I don't know numbers or anything, but from the eyeball, kind of like anecdotal perspective, it looked the same. But the fact that I got boarding passes this weekend as opposed to last weekend probably says a lot.
I think so. I'm interested to see what the capacity is on an attraction like Spider-Man. To pull away that many guests away from Rise, to even give you a shot or an opportunity to ride Rise. Yeah. I'm fast. Those kind of things just, I mean, I'm an operations geek. So this is very interesting, seeing people get into this as much as I have this whole time. Great. Anything else? I mean, overall, would you say it's worth it to go to Disneyland Resort right now, or?
I think that it depends. I think like for like if you're a local who's been a bunch of times, like I've been a million times, yeah, buy the ticket, go experience it. You're not going to do everything like maybe you've done in the past, but at the end of the day, it's good to be back, right? I mean, it's cool to be back. But like if this is your first visit, and you're coming from Japan, and you never come to California before, and this is your first time ever at the Disneyland Resort, no, absolutely not. I personally have never been to Walt Disney World. I don't want to plan my trip right now where everything isn't 100%. And I would advise the same people, coming from there to here, probably wait until it's normalized so you can really experience the Disneyland Resort for what it really is. You're gonna book a plane flight. You're gonna stay a few days. You're gonna come from out of country, out of state. You're gonna spend a ton of money. You're gonna want fireworks. You're gonna want a parade or something. So yeah, you should definitely wait. But you're out of state, but you're also kind of like in a weird way, kind of local because you visit kind of regularly, even though you're out of state. So like for you, I would say, yeah, visit. Why not? You've been a bunch of times. You know what the experience is like when it's fully operational. Check it out during COVID and see how it is. Why not? But
technically, I can't before June 15th.
That's true.
Technically, I can't. But I get what you're saying.
That's true. That's true. June 15th, you should definitely do it. But that was actually, you know what? You brought up an interesting point with that in that they didn't check, at least for us. I didn't have to show my California ID. So I don't know how strict they are with that, but I don't know. I showed my ticket. They scanned it, the QR code, scanned it, and I walked in. So
I wonder if they're doing a kind of a thing where they might log IP addresses.
Maybe.
When you're purchasing tickets to kind of filter it out that way.
That's a possibility.
And then they spot check you when you're there, kind of thing.
That's a possibility. It could be the IP addresses where you're logging in, because the app definitely they ask me every day, can I use your location? So they definitely want to know where I'm at.
That's true. Look, guys. I mean, there are ways to change your vacation. Now, I would never advocate for that. Never in a million years advocate for that. But hypothetically, if you did, it might be hard to track it. I'm just saying. Okay, but I would never advocate, folks. Never. Wait till June 15th for sure.
Yes.
Got to cover in there. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, I mean, look, we're planning on going in like kind of the early fall, late summer kind of thing. Cool. I'm hoping the experience gets a lot better dramatically by then. I'm hoping we at least have masks. Maybe take that requirement off for at least outside.
Right.
I think that would make it a lot more manageable. I was going to ask you, like, were you okay with a mask all day?
Yeah, didn't bother me.
Okay.
Yeah, I brought a few from home, and I actually bought a couple when I was there. In general, the masks don't really bother me. I don't get super uncomfortable with the masks. So it really wasn't too much of an issue for me. I mean, and then there's periods like these no mask oases almost where you're sitting down, you're eating, you're taking it off, you get a little break from it. It would go to the hotel, obviously you take it off. So it wasn't like 14 hours with the mask, I mean, there's moments in time where you're taking it off anyway. I would take it off periodically to drink water. So it was okay. I didn't mind the mask thing too much. But hey, don't get me wrong. I'd rather not have to wear one. I'd rather not have to deal with it. But I mean, it didn't really affect my trip too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. I mean, if I can manage that, I know they have a bunch of tables and chairs set up. It's gonna be interesting to see if those tables and chairs, by the way, those kind of what they're calling outdoor dining stations, even the curbs and stuff. very, very funny to get around the California restriction. I'm wondering if that's going to stay with a significant capacity increase, because it sounds like they're barely managing as it is.
Right.
Mixing tables and chairs that they had, strollers, all that. That could be a significant problem. That'd be interesting to see how they navigate those waters. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how the experience changes from then on. Hopefully, if you go, we'll do this again and we'll compare, contrast, all of that. That'll be pretty fun. Be pretty interesting. It could be an interesting couple of days here, folks. I mean, it's we got a couple of days till June 17th or June 15th, 7 or 8 or whatever. So it's gonna be fascinating. Is there anything else you want to share with us, Orange Go, before taking off?
No. I mean, I think overall it was a good time. We had fun. I didn't realize, like I said earlier on in the conversation, I didn't realize how much I missed it until I came back.
Yeah.
I thought, oh yeah, I can go another 6 months, no problem. But once I came back, I was like, okay, you got me. I'm now that I'm back, I'm like, now I'm itching to go back again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I didn't realize how much I missed it until I came back, but it was good to be back. It felt for the most part pretty normal, aside from a few things. And if it's not your very first visit or your only visit that you're ever going to experience, I suggest going back. Why not? It's fun to kind of. Also, another cool thing real quick is that, like, a lot of the experiences, now I didn't personally go on Haunted Mansion. Okay. But a friend of mine at work, she did. And she said, I guess they skip the stretching room and you go through another way.
Crypt.
So if you're a local who's been to the parks a bajillion times, those kind of little differences might be something you might not ever be able to experience again.
Good point.
After the pandemic. So experience it now while you can. The back way into Haunted Mansion and things like that. That's a cool little difference that you might not be able to see again. So why not experience it? Yeah,
it's perfect. I was just going to say, what was your favorite thing you did? The 3 days combined.
You know what? I think it was my girlfriend's first time on Rise of the Resistance.
That's cool.
And I didn't know what to expect with her because she doesn't like Star Wars. Yeah. And she doesn't like drop rides. And, there is a significant, well, I don't know if significant, but there is that drop.
There's that drop. Yeah. There's
skate pod thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't know what she would really feel about it. I mean, she loves Indiana Jones and a lot of it feels like Indiana Jones with the vehicles, but she got off of that thing. Like, this is one of my favorite rides. She couldn't stop talking about it. And I'm like, really? You know what? Yes.
That's the magic, awesome. Man. That is the magic. We were like, within months, just within weeks probably of the parks closing and us getting a chance to ride it before that time period. So, that is really cool that you were able to go back and experience Rise pretty much unchanged, pretty consistent with what it was like when it opened. That's really cool, man. That is awesome. All right. Yeah. All right. Well, we're on your channel really, but tell everybody where to find you.
Well, you can find me here on Orange Grove 55.
Give a reason to subscribe. Come on.
Subscribe. This guy right here is fantastic. And, I want to say right now, I appreciate him doing the content he does on my channel. He always brings a wealth of knowledge. And that's why I brought him on, because he provides a different perspective than my own. And give it up to Vash this way.
Stop it. It's too much. It's too much. What do we got here? Yeah, it works. Yeah. There you go. I try to incorporate it any way I can, but okay. Well, thank you. I do. If you want to find me, guys, I'm on Twitter at VashSky right down here. You're watching Freshly Squeezed right now. I think I don't think there's anything more I can actually say. How about it, buddy? We're all good?
We're all good. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for watching. Oh, and comment below and check out Vash on Twitter and his content here on the channel.
Thank you very much, guys. We'll see y'all later. Thank you.